Well, hello and welcome to the Countryside Podcast with Kiri Kermode and Simon Clark. And some bits and pieces we didn't get time to play on last week's programme, Kiri, from the Royal Manx Agricultural Show. We spoke to the NFU, always have a wonderful setup there, don't we? And also the Greater Butterfly Orchid. Have you heard of that?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Sounds very spectacular.
Orchids are very special on the Isle of Man, aren't they? And we speak to John Doug Collister. There's an article in the paper which he picked up on and then explained about them here in the Isle of Man as well. So we're hearing from that. And also some very good news from Peter Quayle.
That's it. Peter's very happy with the prices receiving at the moment, even with the Brexit ahead of us. No one seems to be sure what's going to happen, but the confidence still seems to be around the farming community. So long may that continue.
Yeah, that's all in Countryside, so here we go. Well, firstly, Kiri, on the farms around the Isle of Man, we usually have a chat about it, and it's been a trying time for people trying to get combine and done and things, hasn't it?
Oh, it's been sketchy in and out of these showers and trying to gather them up. But I think they're slowly getting there, and apparently the yields are quite good this year too.
Yeah, it's been, I suppose, the time it needed the right amount of rain, the right amount of sunshine. I think it happened, didn't it? You know?
That's right. The early part seemed quite dry. There was a few people complaining around Easter time there that the ground was dry enough for the crops to get going. But I think with a good bit of heat and a bit of rain that's been in between, the crops are coming off quite nice. There's plenty of hay and silage around, and still people are harvesting away at that too.
Yeah, a bit of sheep dipping going on too.
Yeah, a few people have got the summer fly dips underway, just keeping them away because the flies are quite serious this summer with the damp humidity weather. But also the sheep sales are underway. The annual breeding news, we had Anna Carusha's sale last week on Monday and Bollaglonny's on Tuesday. And I caught up with Peter Quayle at Central Marts on Wednesday to see how the sales have been going.
Yes, it's been really nice. It's Wednesday the 14th. We've had a lot of people at the mart. I think lots have come to see how cattle prices are. We've had some really good type of cattle in from David Cool and Ernest and Francis Clegg. Some lovely Charolais types there, and they sold really well. So we're pleased. Hopefully the buyers are happy enough too, because they've gone home with purchases they haven't been able to get for the last few weeks, and hopefully the sellers are pleased as well.
But it bodes well. We're just going into the harvest time, and well, I suppose everyone will be trying to lift the corn and get straw now.
Well, that was a problem last year. I think this year crops are looking good, but you can never count your chickens until the grain and the straw is all harvested. But there's certainly an awful lot of silage about and hay. There's looks to be lots of fodder, and there's good reports of grain. So it's looking better option for fattening cattle, and hopefully the meat plants are getting sorted as well.
And not only for the cattle side of things, a good sheep sale yesterday at Bollaglonny.
Yes, we had a good sale. We were hoping it would be at Bollaglonny. We've been there for quite a few years now. The day before, Anna Carouche sold hers, and she had a really good sale, so we heard those reports. Tuesday, it was quite a warm day, and I think some of them were combining on the north, so we did miss odd buyers, but generally we had a really good sale. Sheep sold well, and tups, good quality tups, and we had a good sale. The Creers had a good sale.
Yeah. But that does bode well. It gives a bit of confidence because, as we always hear, Brexit, a bit of uncertainty ahead maybe, Peter?
Definitely uncertainty, but when you're keeping sheep, they get old quick enough, and you've got to keep replacing them, and you need those young sheep coming into your flocks. Farmers will always be optimistic, eternal optimists, and we hope that there will be markets, and the lamb price is reasonable at the moment, and we just do what they do well, which is producing good quality lamb, and maybe hope that some of the Manx people will buy more Manx lamb, because the quality of the lamb is just lovely, and sometimes if they can buy a cheaper joint, if they just get more taste with proper Manx lamb. We know lots of people do ask for Manx lamb, and luckily quite a few of the butchers and one or two supermarkets are supporting the Manx product.
Which is essential because, like you say, local people are wanting local produce. The food miles, the environmental issues that everyone having around it. Will this implicate on the farming here in the Isle of Man too?
It definitely has an implication. We know that people are very honest, and they try to buy Manx, and sometimes they really feel cheated when they can't buy Manx, or they're sold products that appear to be Manx, and then they get them home and find they're not. So there will always be that support. We just need a lot more of it.
It has been a good year, though, Peter, generally. We've come into 2019, a good growing year.
Definitely good growing. We've had the rain and sunshine at the right times, although we wouldn't have said that for the Royal Show. The Royal Show did amazingly well to get through. The Southern Show had a really good day, and then the second day was a disaster. I don't know, the shows seemed to have a hard time, and the amount of work that those people put in is unbelievable. So it was really good to see so many people at the Royal Show. I was impressed. Knockalo's a great place. They got good parking facilities, and it does dry up quite quickly. The fields look awful at the moment, but they will recover. It's just like farmers, you think things will never recover, but the land has an amazing recovery rate.
And what Central Mart's got ahead of itself now, Peter? It'll be a busy year. We're in August, but won't be long till the suckler sales.
No, we've got a few sheep sales coming next week, and there's others thinking about selling some. But then you're right, the autumn sales is the busiest time, and we look forward to those suckled calves. But we're always glad to sell anything, and we've got one or two customers with some cows and calves they'd like to sell, so we're always trying to sell something, but it has been a bit quieter than usual.
That was Peter Quayle from Central Marts.
Good to see a bit of positive news there. The prices seem good.
They've been a lot better than last year for the annual breeding ewe sales, and we have the ram sales coming up along with the store sales, and then obviously leading into the suckler calves in October. There could be a bit more of a bumpy road ahead for them, with it being Brexit in the middle of it all, but at the minute people are holding steady.
Are many people talking about it in the farming world?
They do talk about it, but nobody's got the right answer. They're relying on the Isle of Man meets or the government for answers, and nobody really knows. Even in the bigger picture in the UK, there's a lot of uncertainty. But as long as you're ready and prepared as best you can on each farm, then that's all you can do.
Have you heard of angel orchids?
No, I have heard of orchids, but not the angel ones.
Well, orchids are a big thing here on the Isle of Man. And there was some news recently and an article in the Daily Telegraph newspaper explaining to people about these angel orchids that are around Britain and various parts. The greater butterfly orchid, as it's known. And I heard there was some here on the Isle of Man. So I went along to speak to John Dog Collister to find out more.
I'm involved in a field it used to be called Ballatia Meadow, but it's now referred to as Larch's Meadow, Larch Garrod, in memory of her. And they vary from year to year, and this year I found two of the greater butterfly orchid that's in this article. And in this article are referred to as, in inverted commas, angels. Now I've showed you a picture and you can see possibly why they are referred to as angels. And so years vary. Sometimes I think last year there was maybe approaching 60. This year 2.
Wow.
So I'm not worried. I think it's just a year that didn't suit them. Well, I'm hoping it's a year that didn't suit them, and next year maybe there'll be a scotch again. So
is it some these angel or orchids, are they found anywhere else in the island that you're aware of?
There are other fields that they're found in the Curragh. Tricia Seld is involved with a group, and they've got a field there, and there's 2 in, she was saying there was 2 by the gate in there, so there's 2. I don't know how many they normally have. It might be a poor year from the island's point of view for greater butterfly orchids, but they are in other meadows round about, so it not the end of the world. But the field I'm referring to was purchased back in the 80s by about 10 or 15 people.
Yeah, because there's a good story behind the field, isn't
Yeah,
it?
well, there was about 10 or 15 people. I'll name a few, but I off the top of my head, I should have got some notes. Off the top of my head, I can't remember everybody's name, but I know, for example, Larch Garrod, Marjorie Devereux, a gentleman called Dr. Walsh, big gentleman, big deep voice, Dr. Walsh, and Tricia Seld's mother, to name 4. This field come up for sale, and a group of people all got together and they all threw different amounts in and they bought the meadow.
Why did they buy it?
Because it was, in them days and still is, a good flower meadow. They were worried that a local farmer whose interest was in cattle and not in flowers might buy it, plough it up, put turnips in it or what, stubble turnips, whatever. So the meadow would be gone. So they bought it, and I got involved through. I used to do a lot of photography in inverted commas for Larch and Marjorie Devereux. The pair of them would go out and they'd find something unusual and they would get in touch with me. They would tell me where it was, and I would go out and I'd take some pictures of it, and then I would send them up to Larch at the museum. So that was how I sort of got involved with them. I got involved in wildflowers and photography and Manx Gaelic. This is my story about me. I got involved in them three things all about the same time, and then I started to combine all three. I would go out I lived in Ballaugh at the time. I would go for a walk down the line. I would only go about 20 yards, and I'd find that much stuff that I'd be looking at. So I'd be taking pictures of these things and all, and then I started to put them, and I've showed you my book here into a book, the pictures. But
the Owl Scrapbook.
The Owl Scrapbook. But you see, one I put in was a Cushig one day, and I thought, Cushig, that's the Manx name. And I suddenly realised, what's the Manx name for all these other things? So that got me interested in the Manx names, and I liaised with, I'm terrible on people's names, Chris Sheard, and we printed a book of Manx flowers, that names Manx wildflowers. And anyway, so I started taking pictures and so on, and Larch and Marjorie were interested in what I did, so they would tell me where everything is. Anyway, the group of people got together and they bought this field. Now I got then involved because Marjorie Devereux gave me her entitlement to the field sometime and said, look, you're younger than me, I know you'll look after it, and that was so. And gradually over the years other people have given me their entitlement, and so there's about 8 or 9 of them, maybe more, have given me their entitlement. It's not worth anything per se, but more recently we decided to try and get it fenced, and finding money and so on. So I went to DEFA. Anyway, I explained about the field. It needed fencing, and were they interested? Could they help me? How would I get money? Anyway, they went and had a look, and they agreed with me. It's a fine field and wants looking after, and fencing would help with management. And the management is at the end of the summer, after August. Being a wildflower meadow, you've got to wait till after August. You cut it for the, to get hay off it. Now, most farmers, that's far too late, but that's what you've got to do to these fields. Now, this field can be a bit wet, and we know what the weather's like. And what would happen some years is it could be cut and never baled off because it got too wet.
Never got dry.
Never got dried. So it just lay on in big rucks, down the field, and that wasn't a very good idea. The other thing that would happen is it would be too wet to even cut it. So then there'd be another year where it hadn't grew. Not often, but these things happen. So the thought was, if it's fenced properly, and it wasn't, if it's fenced properly, you can put stock on it. Sheep to graze it down over winter, and that would be a good way of doing it. So that's they agreed, and I think this Donny Collister fund helped to pay for the field getting fenced, and young Huxham Adam fenced it, did a mighty job, and so it's a good strong fence around the field and so on. So I got in touch with you because I saw this. They referred to these greater butterfly orchid they are as angels, and I've showed you the pictures, and they do resemble.
They do look like angels,
an angel. There is also a lesser this greater butterfly. There is a lesser butterfly orchid that used to grow in a meadow down near to St Jude's, and I've been out and I got some photographs of that, but for unfortunately that field then they started to put cattle in it, and they've disappeared. So it's a much rarer plant, this lesser butterfly orchid. But anyway, there's a number of meadows. I don't know them all, but there are a number of meadows that have greater butterfly orchids in them.
But this particular piece of land at the north here, I mean, it's not just the special orchids that's there, though, is there?
No, it's a good wildflower meadow, and when the DEFRA came and looked at it, they agreed that it would be worth saving, apart from the fact that there was greater butterfly orchids in it, which is like the icing on the cake. It was a good wildflower meadow anyway, and it was worth preserving, to coin a phrase. So
how did they preserve that?
Well, they've helped by fencing it. You see, the problem we had was, left as it was, in a wet year, if we wanted to graze it, you couldn't put cattle in it, not cattle, sheep in it, because there was that many holes, they'd be gone. So the first thing to manage it by using sheep, you needed a good fence system.
But it's been recognised now and given
it's
scientific...
now it's an ASSI, scientific interest. There's all sorts of things you're not allowed to do and you're supposed to do. So I've got a local fella who takes the hay off it each year when he can, and he's grateful of the hay. I think they use it for horses. Go around and pull cushings out of it. Goes against the grain a bit, being a national flower, but anyway, there's lots of cushings growing other places, so we pull the cushings because they're not good for horses. But
the general public can go and have a look at it if they're careful, can they?
Yes,
it's not a massive area, is it?
No, it's a long narrow field, probably a football pitch and a half. It's not as wide as a football pitch maybe, and it's football pitch and a half. It's on the Ballamoor Strait. If people know where the what do you call it, Ballavarren Road is, the Ballavarren Road goes from the Ballamoor Strait through to a crossroads, and if you go straight across, you go up to Derby Church. So maybe if you come from Derby Church, you go straight across the road, you go along the Ballavarren Road, and you meet the bottom of Ballamoor, the straight. It used to be part of the Derby Road circuit, didn't it? That you come down the Mile Straight and turn the corner on the Ballavarren corner. So you get to Ballavarren corner on the Mile Straight, and you turn to the Cronk, Ballaugh Cronk, and you go probably 50 yards, and it's on the hillside of the road, not the shore side. It's on your left as you're driving towards the Cronk, and there's a metal gate on it. There's we must put a sign on it at some stage. It's metal fenced right round about, so anybody treated with respect can go for a wander and look at all the other flowers other than the greater butterfly orchid.
John Dog Collister telling me about the angel orchid, or the greater butterfly orchid, which you can view here on the Isle of Man as long as you're careful, because the orchids are very, very precious to a lot of people here on the island, aren't they, Kiri?
They really are, and I'm surprised they've told anybody where they are. But it's great for other people to have a look online and see what they look like, and then when they're out taking a walk, they might come across some in normal environments too.
Indeed. You're listening to Countryside here on Manx Radio with Kiri Kermode and myself, Simon Clark. Well, we had a wonderful Royal Manx 2019, the agricultural show at Knockalo. We heard on last week's programme from all the prize winners, the supreme champions, the judges and the presidents and the secretaries. There was a few people we also spoke to around the marquees and out and about on the Saturday as well. And firstly, a wonderful presentation at the NFU tent, which I caught up with Natalie Mason. This is always a great spectacle for the youngsters in particular, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're all about the community at the shows, all about encouraging families to come and see the animals, get up close to the animals, and then as they leave the Manx NFU area and they've had enough of close-up animals, they swing by our little tent here and we give them freebies and sunglasses, frisbees, stickers, flags, just to kind of keep the awareness going of what the Farmers Union does and how the NFU Mutual works alongside them to ensure all the farmers.
Well, you've been involved with the farming fraternity for many, many years as well, haven't you? And a lot have stuck by it, I must say.
Absolutely. Well, the NFU Mutual is 109 years old now. We were established in 1910. But obviously we've been in the Isle of Man now, I think, for close on 80 years, supporting the farmers and ensuring all of their livestock, machinery, farm buildings, you name it. So yeah, I think we've done best part of 80 years now in the Isle of Man.
And it can be a calm sort of area for years, can't it?
Yeah.
And then all it needs is maybe some bad weather or
Yeah.
something like that.
A weather surge can change everything. I mean, last weekend, you know, Bride was flooded. We had a lot of flood claims from the Bride area last weekend. But people will remember 4 or 5 years ago when the snow came. And that was a massive catastrophe for the farming community. And even our staff went out with shovels to try and help sheep out of the drifts. People will remember the images from out Cape Michael, 12-foot drifts up and down the roads there. So we're always there to support and help the farmers in any way we can.
And of course the machinery side of it as well.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of money's worth of machinery in
Oh,
farms.
yes.
Everyone says that they're claiming that they're poor, but of course it's tied up in everything, isn't it?
Everything is tied up in assets for farmers. I mean, you come down here and you see the huge tractors and the machinery and the plant that they need to run the farms. It's an expensive business for the farmers. It goes beyond just looking at the sheep and the cows in the fields and thinking about the revenue they make from the meat. They've got to keep that farm working all year round, and it costs a lot of money. And from an insurance point of view where we are, those big tractors look robust, but by crikey, that glass pops out of them on a regular basis. The amount of tractor glass claims we get is phenomenal. But that's what we're here for.
Yeah,
So that's what we do. Yeah.
But of course, that's for more the older generation who are
Yeah.
involved in it.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's something for the kids, and they're learning stuff from this as well. Aren't they?
Absolutely. I mean, from the minute you go through and you see we've got the most miles of hedgerows than any other country in the world, just in the Isle of Man. Yeah. The minute you enter the tent, it's purely about education. It's where our food comes from. It's how it's farmed. It's the ethics behind the farming. You'll learn a lot about Manx pigs and Manx pork here, and how it's all farmed, and how ethical the whole farming industry is on the Isle of Man. How percentage-wise our animals are more grass-fed than anywhere in the UK. They spend more time outside. The Isle of Man is a very special place when it comes to looking after its livestock and the whole circle of rearing, from basically to get it onto the plate.
Yeah,
It's very educational in there with all
And
the
a lot
animals.
of the farmers on the Isle of Man try and keep it that way as well, don't they?
Absolutely, they try their best. I mean, from the middle of the week here, the farmers were all down setting up their pitches, helping to build, this whole thing that we've got going on here with all the animals and the pens, cows, sheep, goats. We've got it all going on, but it's the farmers that come together to build, this exhibit, to show their animals, to educate the Manx people, because they want people to know just how much goes into farming and how much investment they make into keeping things local, and how really we should support local farming and local industry, and keep the wheels turning and try and buy Manx wherever possible.
Natalie Mason from the National Farmers Union here on the Isle of Man. Well, also, the Tomorrow's Farmers, as it used to be called, awards didn't happen. Obviously, they usually happen on the Friday, Kiri. But there were some other awards presented.
It was a disappointment to not have the Food and Farming Awards this year, but other regular competitions are the tenanted farms, the cropped farms, the best beef and livestock farms around the Isle of Man. And one of these prizes went to the Cool family, and I caught up with Kaylee Cool from Ballamorda Farm. Kaylee Cool, the winner this year of 2 sections.
I don't think I can take credit for them all, but I just collected the trophy, so same thing.
So what have you been winning?
This little one here is for the best crop of spring barley, and we also were very lucky to win the best livestock and cropped tenanted farm. So
These are huge achievements though, because lots of people do take part in these classes. It's not just one field, it's your whole farm that gets monitored. The judges come out and look
Yes.
through and see. Busy day that must have been.
yeah, there was 3 judges that came around, so it was a little bit daunting to have them all on the farm and what I was going to say and what I was going to give them a tour of. So it's a nice result for.
So what did you have to do? Is it just your everyday running of the farm, or is it how the year pans out?
Yeah, basically we just give a chat of what we've been up to in that year. We've invested in quite a lot of a little bit more sustainable and a bit more environmentally friendly aspects of the farm, and just trying to improve little bits here and there that'll hopefully make a overall better performing farm, which is what we're all aiming for in the long run, isn't it? So,
And you're no stranger of the show ring yourself. You will have had cattle here as well.
yeah, we did. We brought 2 calves today, so a limited show team, but they still did really well for us. So we're happy.
So going away, certainly full-handed.
Yeah, it's a full mantelpiece full. We'll have to get the silver polish out, but yeah, it's been great.
Some positive news from auctioneer at Knockalo Mart now, isn't it?
It is quite a habit to say St John's still, but people there in abundance with Peter and supporting Central Marts there. There's some good cattle on display from Ernest Clegg and David Cool, and obviously the ram sales and store sales are coming up, so let's hope good trade for everybody.
Yeah, is there still as much interest in people? Do they spend more time now looking around and at the animals than they ever used to, or is it more or less the same?
No, the live market doesn't seem to be as popular as it used to be. It was like clockwork every Wednesday. Now you're getting 1 or 2 a month through the summer, maybe not so many. It's just the change in industry. People are doing things differently, a lot of private sales, and lots of people using Isle of Man meats as well, so sold direct. But the Central Marts is very good, well supported by local people, and long may it continue.
And then the orchids, of course, the angel orchid. So just be careful if you do go to these places, because they are quite rare on the Isle of Man, and just be careful where you're stamping. It's like when you were young and you had to walk in the when the carrots or turnips or something were growing.
You know about it, but it is a lovely sight though, isn't it? And something very special when you come across something so rare as them too, and you can look online, see what to look out for.
Yeah. All right, we'll leave it there for this week's Countryside. We're back next week with more. So from me, Simon Clark.
I'm me, Kiri Kermode.
We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.